You're listening to the Frugal Crafter podcast.
I'm Lindsay Weirich, and today we are talking to an inspiring woman who I have been YouTube friends with for almost a decade. You probably know her as the Art Sherpa, and you've probably even painted with her a few times. Cinnamon Cooney, welcome to the podcast.
Well, thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
Oh, it's my pleasure. When I decided that I wanted to do a podcast full of art chats with friends from YouTube and people I admire, you were at the top of the list. So I'm so glad that you are able to join us today.
I'm really glad to be here. And you know what? You're right. It is 10 years. Oh my goodness. We're YouTube, original people from YouTube. Oh my goodness.
I know, and it was just like the Wild West when we got started. I remember so many times just reaching out to you. I'm like, "Have you tried this?" or "Has this happened to you?" And just kind of all just trying to figure it out as we go, because as soon as you learn the rules, something would change, and you'd have to
Oh
learn them
yeah.
all over again.
It's not YouTube unless they figure out how to change all the rules. So whatever you're doing doesn't work anymore at all.
Absolutely. So why do you think your channel and you are such a success on YouTube?
I think it's a combination of working super hard. Like, as you know, there's so much work to do this. So you work really hard. But I think it's also a little bit of luck. I think because I've done more than one channel, and I think there is always a little bit of luck every time I get on a new platform where you've got to have some content that hits the mainstream a little bit and gets pushed out past, maybe the niche that you sit in comfortably. It gets pushed out to a broader audience, and that helps you grow and that helps bolster your success. And I think it's a combination of working really hard, making content you would watch yourself, like you would watch your own content, and then also putting enough stuff out there that you have the chance to be lucky, with a video that maybe hits a little bit bigger and goes a little bit farther and helps you grow your audience. I think it's a combination. Oh, and like, shout out to you, like, seriously, like, also I had some help early on. I think that we were in that Wild West, and the way we all initially talked to each other and helped each other out. I think that's something I don't know if new YouTubers get at all, is that community help from other creators that, because they don't even do the YouTube meetups anymore. Remember those meetups we used to be able to go to where YouTube would come around and talk to creators and let creators meet each other? They don't even do that anymore. Like, so much of that is gone now, and I think was really important.
Yeah, I agree. And I love what you talked about putting enough stuff out there so that you had a chance for something to hit, because I think you did daily content for a while, didn't you? Like a video every day. And I did the same thing. And I think, and that was during the big growth period. But when you're doing something every day, you have like a new chance to try something new. And I was just throwing spaghetti at the wall. I just doing what I felt like I wanted to try. And the weirdest things would get popular, that you just, oh, I'm going to paint a hummingbird. And then that turns into a million watched video that you just didn't want to take. And then something that you spend days or weeks on just never got its legs. So yeah, what do they call that? The quantity to quality. You put
Yeah.
out a lot of quantity and then you get to the quality because you get so practiced at doing it that you just can't help but get better once you put enough videos out.
Yeah. I do think practice makes us better.
Yeah, definitely. Now, how many videos do you have on your YouTube channel?
So it's actually 2,500. It looks like 1,600, but that's just the recorded videos. But if you add the live in there, and then you add what we've done on other platforms, because we've made whole runs of content. Like, I had 100 videos that were just for Instagram that we
Oh,
did.
wow.
We were doing daily Instagram videos for a while. And, on Facebook, even on Pinterest, making specific content. And then also for my patrons. So it's so much content that just the sheer data management sometimes is super overwhelming. Like, just because there's so many things, and you'll understand this because of how you title and tag everything. I'm now down to, like, keywords plus year. You don't even get to do fancy titles or artful titles anymore. You know, I'm always joke like tree with girl and dog 2024, where I'm trying to find that painting again. You know, oh yeah, it was that one with that tree and that girl and that dog, and it's the only way I can get back to it because it's hard to find them. And it's interesting to see when you have that much content, to see how it surfaces, where it fades out, like what happens with it. Because it's not evergreen. I don't know if you've noticed this, but the evergreen content doesn't seem to be as evergreen as long as it used to be.
That's interesting because I just was noticing on my channel there was this very, very simple, just stream in the woods watercolor that I did probably like 7 or 8 years ago, and that is like one of my top videos right now at this moment. I have no
Really?
idea what picked that up. I don't know if it was it the brand of paints I used, was it the topic, was it just I have no idea why that's popped back up in the top of the. It's not a great painting. I mean, it's not a bad painting. It's just a
Yeah.
very simple little watercolor painting, and I have no idea why that has just popped up. So, and it's weird. I do notice like around Christmas time, I have certain videos that pop to the top every Christmas. It's like making a paper bow out of scrap wrapping paper and making string ball ornaments. Like for some reason, those always just kind of jump up in November, and it must be some sort of combination between what people are searching for and what has already racked up watch time.
Yeah.
But those are so few and far between. They're definitely not the norm.
Well, and there
And
used to
and
be
it's
this like, or at least I used to perceive it, and I've talked to some other creators about it, and certainly my mom who also creates, like, because what we make is just generally helpful videos, it used to be like they would just really surface and search, you know, even if they weren't really like uber trending. And I've noticed that it's weird how things surface and search now. Like I
mm,
have trouble finding sometimes my own videos.
yes.
And I'm like, I'm using my name and the words I know that describe this video. Why am I seeing 20 other videos? And I'm still
Yeah,
looking for me.
same.
So it's, I think the platform, it definitely evolves and changes. And then it's just trying to find that path to, you know, I guess for want of better words, being authentic in spite of it, like just continually making what you authentically love to make and not have the, what I call the beast drive you. Cause I call the algorithm the beast, and,
Hmm.
trying to like create things and not have it be what dictates your content. Cause I see that happen to so many great channels where they hit some success, and maybe that was in a niche that wasn't their original like zeitgeist for why they joined the platform. Like something weird happened, like they did little painting videos, but slime went big on their channel, and then they start just making slime videos, and then their whole channel, you know, where it's just like it's so easy to have the algorithm, this sort of mindless, you know, set of code, start to program your channel for you. And I know you have to fight that. I have to fight it because we're like, we create for our community first, right? So I'm always creating for the people who are watching me first. And then a little bit myself, I like to add myself in there a little bit. Like I get weird ideas and strange programs going that I like to do. And then knowing that you have to be somewhat responsible to the platforms that you're on, but not letting them drive what you make, I think is super important.
Yeah, absolutely. It's so tempting to want to do something that you know is going to get the clicks. Like for instance, I was talking with Miranda Watson last week, and because she's doing a permanent no buy, and I thought that was so refreshing and interesting in this current state of affairs that we're on. But if like a small channel wants to get big now, if they start posting haul videos, art supply haul videos, craft supply haul videos, that is going to show up. Like they could have just started a channel yesterday and start with a
Yeah.
video like that, and that is going to be on people's homepages. And it's very tempting to be like, my channel needs a shot in the arm. I could post a haul video to get, at least in front of my subscribers again.
Yeah.
Um, but to honor your community. And it is such a battle because, well, I want to do a lot of painting tutorials. I want to do a lot of crafting tutorials. I want to do a lot of card making tutorials. And then before you get kind of exhausted with all the things you want to do, and trying to balance it with the things you know that are going to bring in the eyeballs, and it's always changing. So, and it could very well be that your audience wants your painting tutorials and that's what they want to see, but that doesn't happen to be what is getting put on their home screen. And if they don't go to their subscription feed, then they may never see it.
Yeah, no,
So
it's super
it's
true.
so, yeah, it's so hard. Well, you're one of the first channels, and maybe the first channel, maybe the first channel in the art niche here on YouTube to do live streaming to the extent that you did it. What made you want to try live streaming?
Well, I actually have to give my co-host and partner credit for that, my husband John. So when we first started to do this, he really was sure that live was going to be where everything was going. Everything was going to be about
Mm.
live, immediate content. And he did a tremendous amount of work. Like I don't even have words for the work he did to build the studio we have and to make it a live streaming studio. We even had people we were going to maybe do some stuff with PBS for a little while because we're on some of the public channel access
Yeah,
channel.
I remember that.
Yeah. And they came to our studio and I was really surprised at how impressed they were at our live studio. Like they were like, this is like a real live studio. This is like a TV studio in here. And John worked really hard for that. And, I think the format, we were one of the first, if not the first. And I think that 2-person format weirdly worked for us, even though sometimes,
Mm.
there are people who don't necessarily love the two co-hosts. I always got to tell people though, John's the only one that can turn the lights on. So my lighting system has 55 buttons and they're little swivels that I've got to put up and down. I can't get these lights on for any reason. So, you know, he definitely has to be here. But I think I think it was just magic in the water at the time when it was there. People really liked getting together and being in the live chat. They liked that they didn't know what was going to happen, that it was live. So that was sort of exciting. Like, I think there was sort of like is this painting going to come out or what's going to happen? Or we don't know what anyone's going to say, or there was some excitement of showing up. And then I think it really helped build community. I really do. I think it, but I give John
Yeah.
credit for that vision. I think a lot, of Desi Arnaz when I think of him just being really innovative at looking at how we can like structure. Like right now, my current studio is in a basement, and we've had to figure out new um, configurations to have the cameras be so close to the work because usually these cameras like to be distant from it a little bit to see it well, and we have to be bright. Everything's on top of me, so it's that constant. Uh, I guess reinventing yourself, but even your format gets reinvented every once in a while.
Yes, that's true. And I credit you and John for getting me started in live streaming on YouTube because I kind of learn the amount of tech I need to know to get what I need to get done. And I think I might have done just a couple of live streams back when on YouTube you could use Google Hangouts
Yeah,
as far as like doing a stream. And I had done just some it was kind of like art chats, but with several people, and we talk about like a particular topic. But then I think that was not working or the quality wasn't very good. And I wanted to be able to do like a weekly live stream. And it was you and John that kind of talked me through using, I think it was the Adobe Flash, or what was it? Adobe Live Stream, some sort of thing that integrated easily with YouTube. And you guys helped me, told me what keys to put in where. And you guys hopped on a live recording with me, or just kind of a private live recording, and helped get me straightened away so I could do that. And oh, those early live stream days when YouTube used to push the live streams, that was so awesome.
it was, and you could be on that. Remember those channels that were the hashtag channels that would curate all the live,
Yeah.
and it would be so exciting to be featured on that YouTube
Yep.
playlist. Like now, no, like we've got Mr. Beast, we've got these big numbers, the gaming channels that pull like 20,000 viewers in a single live stream. I see that, and I'm just like, it even though like, it can seem like, your channel is fairly large or my channel is fairly large, from just the number of subscribers. You look at these big channels where these numbers are just so astronomical, and then you realize, oh no, it's still a small town. It's still niche. Like, we're still
Mm,
in I think that's been helping me ground into, it's still just the cozy neighborhood it always was. It
mm,
didn't really blow up. And the art that blew up big has been, you know, piano music with time lapse. That seems to be what has,
mm,
gone big with big numbers. Or, stuff like Sam Does Art does. Um, and, but the tutorial space, the learning space has stayed, I think, um, I still know the names of so many people who go to the streams. Like, there's people who go to everybody's
mm.
live streams. There's still
Yep.
those people who, like, Mona, and Mona's at everybody's live stream. There's
Mm.
just different people. I call them like the honeybees, and they go around and they pollinate everybody's channel with a little bit of love.
Aw.
Yeah. And I think we still have that. And I don't know if the gaming segments or the big beauty segments get that. I think maybe the Green brothers get that niche community, but I think that
Mm,
kind of really special, close, emotionally invested community that we have in the maker space, in the DIY space, is really special. I hold that to John all the time, that we're very lucky and that we have a special audience,
mhm.
out there. I know everyone feels their audience is special, but I genuinely think our audiences are the most special. Like, you get into anyone's chat. Like, sometimes I'll see a live stream of a friend, and I won't like necessarily chat anymore because I don't want to pull eyeballs out of stream, right? To
Mhm.
be like, oh, I'm here, but I'll lurk, just to
Mhm.
see how a friend is doing. I'll be like lurking, and you see the chat and you just go, this community is like the best. Just supporting each
Yeah.
other and lifting each other up, and they're invested in each other's stories and health and outcomes. And it's just, I don't know. I think it's amazing.
Yeah, I agree. Because, I mean, where there's such a lack of third spaces in the physical world right now, to have these digital third spaces, which I think a chat community during a live stream, even if somebody has no desire to paint along or do the tutorial, they can, for an hour and a half, be with their best friends or be with people that at least appreciate what they appreciate. They don't have somebody telling them what they're doing is foolish or not worth their time or they should do something more productive. They can be with like-minded time, the virtual coffee shop, basically. And
Mm-hmm.
there's a painting happening, you know, at the same time, but they don't have to feel that obligation that they need to paint to be here. They could just be here and maybe even paint later, but just enjoy the company of other people in the live stream. Or if it's just a tutorial that's pre-recorded and up, they might feel that more of a pressure that, well, if they're watching this, they really ought to be doing something. They really ought to be painting along,
Yeah.
or you know, there's that inferred obligation, which I think that since probably since COVID and things started opening back up after COVID, people have had a lot of tutorial fatigue, feeling like, okay, now they can get out, whereas before they really wanted to hunker down and learn stuff. And I think they maybe have had the best intentions, but have gotten a little burnt out, and they're just looking more for friendly spaces where they can hang out more so than to complete a full painting or repaint their house or garden everything or do something super productive.
Yeah. I like that, tutorial fatigue. I think that was something people really did experience because, like, during COVID, those, like, people were really with us. Like, we went live like every day. My mom was going live every day just to be there for people.
Mhm.
And, everybody was so excited. They're all making bread. They're learning things. So, like, that time was getting packed with, like, information. And definitely after, you could see some people were like, yeah, I'm just going to go lay down in the grass for a while. Just,
Absolutely. I love to look at when I'm getting ready to interview somebody. I love to look at their videos from oldest to newest, and it was really fun to see, especially your pre-recorded videos from the beginnings of your channel. And I love your experimentation and the playful way that you use the platform, kind of like your playground, and just tried all the things. Do you have a favorite collaboration or wacky experiment that you tried back in the early days or since then that you really loved?
yes. Yes, and it's probably my most failed experiment, but it's like my favorite. Like I loved all of our collaborations. I loved collaborating with you and Angela, and that was like I'd love to do that again. That was really special. That's always super fun. But I watch a lot of late night comedy, and there's a comedian, Seth Meyers, and he does these outtakes on YouTube. And as a YouTuber, I kind of get fascinated with other YouTubers doing their weird jokes and everything. And
Mhm.
so I was watching it, and he was talking about a TV show, and he was just updating information about the TV show, and the TV show was just getting more and more ridiculous. And I'm looking for this TV show he's recommending. And each time we would see this segment where he would go over corrections or whatever, he'd tell you a little bit more what was happening in the TV show. And I mean, I was in it for a while before I realized there was no network. This TV show wasn't real. This whole thing was just, he was just making this up. And I was laughing with my husband. And I was like, we should do a tutorial based on this made up TV show, right? That doesn't exist, but we're going to teach it like it does exist, like it's real, like the network's real, like the show is real. And I rewatched, I don't know, 12 hours of him going on and on about this stuff. And it felt like it. And I took these notes. So I had at least what was canon from him. It was Tiny Secret Whispers was what he called the show, Tiny Secret Whispers. And it was a murder mystery, and there were twins, and the twins had different fathers. It was just getting weirder and weirder as it was going. And so I designed a painting based on what I had. And we sat there and talked about how it was our new favorite show, and we were really into it. And the network was Butternut, and it was like we had the prices. And then I added to the canon, like we just, for an hour and a half, my husband and I talked about this show, and we weren't even really that rehearsed, just in character as a full improv bit. And we didn't tell my moderators or anybody on our team that we were doing this. And sometimes when we record a video, I have our volunteers or my team preview it just to make sure we don't have like, some crazy cut or edit or some mistake in there. And my chief officer of operations, I don't know, a cat herder, I call her the cat herder, just kind of keeps us together. Um, she was looking for the network and trying to find it for hours. Everybody was looking for it, and they didn't even know it was a joke. And we never told the community it was a joke. We just like went all in. And then I realized this late, for about a week, if you pulled up the Tiny Secret Whisperer story he was telling, our tutorial video was there. So I'm like, all these people who worked on this network show on YouTube, at least their community manager, is seeing my weird painting party, and they've got to be like, this woman has lost her mind. And it didn't really go in views, and people were like, I don't really know the show. And then some people were kind of mad, like, I can't find it anywhere. And finally,
Oh, that's
some people
funny.
were like, it's Seth Meyers. This whole thing is a joke. And they kind of came in, the community sort of came in and gave relief to other members of the community who didn't know. And that was maybe one of my favorite things I ever did, because it was just such a complete prank, and we went all in, and we just didn't care what the outcome was. We just did it because the idea was fun,
Yep.
and it was funny to us. And those are my
Did
favorite
you
things I
post
get
it?
to do, when we do something that's funny to us, just because it
Mhm.
seems silly. It seemed like a good idea. And every once in a while, we just like go, we're going to do something completely unexpected and different and silly and pointless, but wonderful, you know.
Did you post it on April Fool's Day, or was it just a random
No,
day?
no, I can't do anything on April Fool's because I have that 30-day painting challenge. So April
Oh,
1st to April
yeah.
30th, I do a daily painting with my community. And so we're every day. And since it's such an intense challenge, I have found that my community does not have a sense of humor come April 1st. Because they're getting ready for this painting job. This year, I've had to move it to August. I didn't have the health to do it this year, and so I made the decision to move it to August. And so it's going to be acrylic in August this year. But so I could have done a April Fool's joke, but I find that when you have a 30-day painting challenge, you just can't mess with people. It's got to be like, this is exactly what we're doing, and everything is going to be okay. You've got to be, really sort of hand holding everybody all the way through, because it's a scary thing to take on, I think, for new painters to be like, all right, I'm going to go every day.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I tried to do plain April this year, and yeah, I got it done when I got it done, but it didn't happen every day, and just like, you know what, it's more painting than I would have done anyway, so you just gonna be okay with that. And
Yeah.
yeah. So you mentioned that you couldn't do that challenge this year, and I'd like to talk a little bit about what was going on at that time this
Oh
year, if
yeah.
that's okay with you.
Yeah, totally.
Okay. Okay. So mental health is a topic that gets talked a lot with online creators. And you had a situation recently that you were very public and candid about. Could you tell us what happened?
Well, I was working real hard. As you know, I like to work really, really hard. And definitely I was burning the candle at every end. But I wasn't not enjoying myself, So I wasn't really paying attention to maybe all of those little self-care things I probably should have. And I didn't know I had, but I got into a fully manic state. And those are very dangerous. And my symptoms were really scary, though. I was losing my ability to draw and paint. Like, I actually was losing the
Oh,
skill.
wow.
Like, cognitively, I couldn't remember how to do it. And I couldn't remember my child's lullaby, how I sang it. I've sung this.
Wow.
I only sing one lullaby. I've sang it for all three kids. I've got, a 19-year-old. So I've sang this a lot, right? This is not something I should forget. And I couldn't remember how it would go. And I was having a lot of anxiety and paranoia, and energetically, I was just all over the place. And my eldest child, through their own journey with mental health, recognized that the things that I was doing and the things that I was saying were an indicator that I wasn't well. And they came to me literally with the phone and the local help number dialed. And they're like, you've got to call somebody because you're not okay. And so I was like, I was sitting there going, I'm fine. I'm just having a hard time, but I'm fine. I just need 12 hours of sleep. I just need a little bit of a break. I just need this. And they were like, no, you really got to call. And I realized if I didn't call, it undermined every parenting thing I ever said to them. Right. Every time I ever said, yeah, you got to prioritize your mental health. Yeah, you got to, if you need the therapy, you go. If you need the hospital, you go, because that's what you do. And I was like, well, I can't undermine that. So I ended up calling, and I went into an outpatient thing for a little while. And through that, discovered that I had a lot of unpacked trauma
Oh,
that I
wow.
had somehow desaturated in the way that I think, especially I'm going to say Gen X has the ability to desaturate trauma from your past, because everything you survive is fine. And if you've survived it, you're okay. And so now I'm in therapy and I'm unpacking stuff that I I was not prepared to unpack while in a manic state. And I completely spun out and ended up in the hospital, like
Oh,
inpatient,
wow.
for a good little portion of time. And that's where they figured out that I probably have been living with bipolar disorder my whole life, just didn't know it.
Wow.
And that I was in this fully manic state, and they had to get, and then that's where I learned that these things can be deadly. They absolutely can cause cognitive damage. And I mean, I knew it when I was in the group for people who had strokes. Like, they were having me read articles and having to like have reading comprehension. It was like, I could tell from the therapy I was in that they, like, at first I felt like they were pranking me. It felt very untrue at first to me that this was something that was happening. But as I was going through the therapy, I was like, oh wow, this is really happening. And so I had to go there to get stabilized, because that's all they really do at the hospitals. They just get you stable and okay. And so then you have to go back to your outpatient therapy and work on whatever it was that got you there in the first place. And so I had to go back into outpatient. And then I couldn't, from January, I don't remember. It took me a minute. I think I was into February before I could do my first painting again on any level,
Wow.
and then it took a long, I'd say I'm back to about 85%, 90%. I'm like, I consider myself an art machine, right? Like I can
Mm.
just like sit for 5 hours and teach a painting live and do a very complex painting and explain everything I'm doing and just really push those out at a pretty intense level. And I definitely had some of the fuel taken out of my cylinder there. And I'm still getting it back. Like I'm still healing. I'm still having to do healing process. I'm still having to be really aware of where I'm at. I don't think I'll ever get where I was there again because now I know what the warning signs are.
Mm.
So I would recognize it now. Now I'd be like, oh, you know, um, and unfortunately I have some good behaviors around my mania. Like I will unpack and reorganize the entire studio is what I will do. I don't
Mhm.
go shopping. I don't do other extreme behaviors. I tend to get into like weird projects that are super energy intensive. But now I know to recognize that, like if I have decided to color code every Posca pen I own, and I own too many Posca pens, like too many. I could put up a whole display and have a store of Posca, right? Like, so if I'm in there just reorganizing that and I'm frantically, intensely doing it, and I now know that that's like, hey, I might be arcing up into a manic, or if I'm, you know, too like tired at the end of painting, I might recognize that's a depression, and I know to check in now, and I have my medication fairly tuned in. But
Mm.
it definitely, it tipped my apple cart all the way over.
Mhm. Do you think like the wanting to like say organize all of your Posca pens or do something like that is a way to self-soothe and maybe you bring some order to the chaos that you might be feeling? Because if I'm feeling overwhelmed, I like to go and organize a bunch of stuff, but that seems to calm me down and help center me and kind of set me on the right path again. But you said that's more of a warning sign for you that if you get
Yeah,
into
I think
that, it's
because it goes past the. I love what you're saying about like bringing order to the chaos, and I do think organizing does that. I think normally organizing is a very healthy activity, but I found myself like I would get into they're big projects you couldn't finish. Like I don't even know why I got into it. Like, or things would be
Mhm.
fine, and I would just get into my head. We had to do it all over again, or reshuffle things, or it's just one of those early things because I recognize that how I get into it doesn't have just the light and airy, oh, let's create some better visual flow. Like the lady who's like, does it spark joy?
Mhm.
Right?
Marie
You know,
Kondo. Yep.
in one of my manic states, I don't know that I could answer that question really obviously, and I will over
Mhm.
purge in the purge. I'll just overdo it. It's just everything is saturated from them, and you feel great. That's the other problem, is you feel amazing.
Mhm.
I was so disappointed when the doctors were like, we can't leave you feeling like this. And I was like, but I'm so much better. This is the best I've felt in years. I feel like I could do anything. And they're like, yeah, that there, we've got to bring that down. And so I think
Wow.
that was the other thing, is not recognizing that these very elevated, very happy, very intense, kind of feverish moments in my life were actually weirdly unhealthy for me.
Huh.
You know, I don't think you would necessarily feel that. I could see, I couldn't understand ever how you wouldn't know you were in that state until I was in it. And I was like, oh, you would never know because this feels amazing. Yeah, when you're in the
Mhm.
depressive thing, you know something's wrong because you're depressed, and that's not ideal, and that, is emotionally motivating to feel different. But when you feel elated and euphoric, right? And you feel like you can just do anything, you know, um, it's not gonna at all hit you like a warning sign to be like, hey, you should be now I'd be like, now I would be concerned, and I would check in with my therapist and make sure my medication was okay. And I would evaluate my other warning signs of, like, how am I sleeping? How am I resolving conflict? How are the rest of my healthy indicators going? And use those other things to indicate whether I'm just having a happy day or I'm getting amped up into something. Not that it isn't great to have all my clothes color coordinated at the end of one of those things. It is. It's fantastic. Like I can pull a whole kitchen apart, and it's a terrible thing to do because I have 3 kids and a husband, and none of them are oriented that way. They don't really want to put all the cans labeled out. So I'm just kidnapping everyone into an organizational project we're not even going to be able to maintain anyways. Right? It's not going to last. It's not going to survive contact with the family. I don't know what I'm doing.
Yeah, I know. I took masking tape once, and we have one of those lazy Susans in a corner cupboard, and I put masking tape and wrote down where all the spices go, and that lasted, I don't know, a week, and it's like I couldn't even maintain it, let alone anybody else.
Yeah, it's just, yeah. The organization doesn't maintain contact with the enemy. I, for a while there, would take pictures of what it looked like when it was correct and then tape those up on the cupboards.
Yeah,
But that just made me look like I was not together. My kids were just like, well, if you feel like you need to, Mom.
yeah.
Yeah.
When did you first feel like something was not right in the kingdom? Like, was it last year? Was it this year, beginning of
Yeah.
this year?
Yeah. No, so I'd had a lot of bad things happen. And I think that's when things had started to go wrong. But because I had events that had occurred that could explain my emotional state, it didn't even cause me to stop and evaluate my emotional state. We
Mm.
had really wanted to move to Ireland and went through that
Oh,
whole visa process and had just one challenge after another challenge, and after another thing that was super highly stressful. And we were displaced out of our home for a period of time. So we were sort of like couch surfing at my mom's with 3 kids in Texas and
oh,
trying to get relocated overseas, which is, and we got far. Like, we didn't make that video because, we didn't think we were going. The lawyer said you're going. All the people that we paid for immigration were like, we're going. We had a house that we had rented, which is very hard to do in Ireland. We had a car, like we were ready to go. And the delays just kept coming and they kept coming. And, the new paperwork would be filmed. And that was so stressful and that was so intense that I think I just didn't notice in that how I was actually doing,
mm,
because that was so much chaos that it just was like, well, of course I'm feeling off. This is a very chaotic
mm.
day. And I just got terrible
Yeah.
news from, the visa department again, that it's going to be another 4-month delay or 3-month delay, or we've got to sign a new thing, or we have to, because we had to open a whole company. We had to open the company in Ireland. So I actually have a registered business in Ireland, and we had to have employees in Ireland.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So it was a whole thing. And it was, and we had taken our savings, and that was kind of what we had really wanted to do. And it just really fell apart. And so then we had to figure out, at some point, the kids just needed to be in school. Their life just needed to get, you understand this. Their life needed to get stable, and they couldn't keep being
Hmm.
an online school, right? They
Right.
needed to have friends and that. And so we sat down and made this decision that, we're going to have to come up with something different. And then we were like, well, where do we want to be? And I started doing all this research. I don't know if you've ever done this, doing all this research about where I might want to live.
Hmm.
Where do I want to live? What kind of resources do I want there? What vibe do I want the town to have? Like, really thinking about it. And I had come down to 10 towns that I thought would be great for us to move to. And then I actually ended up taking all of my data to Chat GPT uploading it all to the AI. And then I was like, and then I gave it my thing, I've got 3 kids and this is what they're interested in. And these are the resources I need for them. And these are the resources I need for us. Having great mental health care resources were something I was looking at, for my oldest. And just, I think actually families and stuff need that actually. And so I was looking for great mental health care, and I was looking for, arty town, a very, very kind of like fun arty town, and good walkability. I mean, it was like the crazy things I needed. And it did agree with me, the 10 towns of it. It was like the best place you could possibly move given everything is Ann Arbor, Michigan. And it wasn't even on my list.
Wow.
I know. I was like, Ann Arbor, Michigan. I hadn't even considered Michigan. I was looking at Maine. I was looking at New Hampshire. I was looking at Vermont.
Yeah.
I was looking at, these other places, and I was like, but there's so many great art towns all through there. Just so many fantastic, great personality towns. And I was like, Ann Arbor, Michigan, outside of Detroit. And it was like, well, you don't want your kids to have to leave. And this has got this financial infrastructure, and your middle child's interested in these things, and these are the programs that are there, and your eldest child is interested in these. And I was like, wow, and so we looked at it. I went to see if that data was true, and it looked like it was. And so we moved here just on a hope and a prayer.
I didn't realize that's where you were now. I thought you were closer to my end of the country.
I was for a while. We were in Pennsylvania. We had lived in Pennsylvania, but we ended up selling that house. We had a very unfortunate group of neighbors.
Oh,
Yeah. We were just like,
that's too bad.
I thought if we had a nice enough, large enough piece of property, I didn't think the neighbors would matter. But what I learned is the neighbors still mattered. Even when I worked from home, even when I don't really go anywhere, they still matter, because the school system there was just not what we had hoped for the kids. And the kids were, my eldest was having a lot of trouble with bullying, and it was just, not my favorite. So we were just like, let's rethink. So I like Pennsylvania. It's such a pretty place. It was just where we happened to land. And Texas definitely wasn't it. I couldn't do another hurricane.
Yeah.
No more hurricanes. I told Mom, I was like, I'd love to be here with you, but I can't do another hurricane, and there's gonna be another hurricane.
Yeah.
So
Were you close to the Gulf of Mexico, like down in
yeah.
that area?
Yeah. Houston's a real bad area for the hurricanes. My mom they just had lost power recently, just over a storm for a week. It just, the weather there is just super intense. It doesn't do light weather. It doesn't do a light little sprinkle. It does deluge, torrential winds. When Houston does weather, it really does weather. And when it does a hurricane, that surge really comes up, and it does more than you'd think it would do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, that's a nice thing about being further north in the country, is that you'll have snowstorms, but that's usually not like a lose your power event like it is, like the hurricanes are down in the south. So was that around last fall, or was that
Yeah,
last
that was
summer?
last
Like
year.
when
Was
you
the no, I guess 2 years ago. Because I've been almost here. I'll be here in Ann Arbor a year in July. So
Okay.
we'll have been in Ann Arbor for a year. So it was the year before that when all of that happened.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So you just get settled down and you found your place where you've got the community and your kids are happy. And was it like the calm before the storm? Did you have that time to just be like and relax and reflect, and then it hit you, everything that's been
Yeah.
building up? Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's really what had happened, is that you're going, 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 going. It's so funny. Like after we got here and got settled, that's when the visa came through. We're like, and by then the kids were thrilled and had friends and loved their school. And, my oldest was in college and thriving, and the middle child was finding an incredible community, because he's an unusual human being. He likes all this retro vintage stuff, but he found other people that were into that same kind of thing. His age, and my youngest, they just all found something, got into the sports, and they got into everything. And I was just like, well, they're happy. And sometimes that's the rare thing that you go for when the kids are happy and everybody's happy and safe. And I think, yeah, just settled here and there was just enough time for it all to catch up with me.
Do you have employees still in Ireland for that part of the business, or was it just kind of on
No,
paper so that you were ready to go when
no,
you
we
got
had
there?
to let all that go. That was really, it wasn't financially sustainable. We had to be able to be over there and open the business up because I have an art store. And so an online
Yeah.
one. And,
Hmm.
I was hoping to open it up, to kind of an international level.
Hmm.
Right. And, um, it, but it just was not sustainable. It just wasn't going to be doable.
Hmm.
And we're still in the early stages. So we're still in that first, 5 years of just, what I like to call starve up. Whenever you have a new business,
Hmm.
anything, you just like, it's not going to make any money and it's going to be a lot of headache and it's going to be a stress. And having an online art store has been no different, been exactly
Hmm.
what you'd expect.
Um, I want to get back to the mental health, but I just want to put a pin in that for a second because what made you do the art store versus just doing affiliate links for like recommending products?
Um, I found myself often frustrated with the Amazon affiliate system. I didn't like how, they would raise prices on objects if they became
Yeah.
popular. I remember I had found a sharpener that I really liked that was super cute and really effective,
Hmm.
and I loved it. And I showed it to my community, and it had been a reasonable $15 for an electric sharpener that did an extra deep
Hmm.
sharpen on a pencil.
Yeah.
I was like, this is fantastic, and it's a panda. You stick the pencil in the eye of the panda. It's too funny. So it started selling, and it ended up being $75, and I was like, that's it. I am done.
Wow.
I'm just like, I'm done. And so we were like, we couldn't, we'd sold little things, we do the art retreats and we'd sold little kits and packages, for a minute. But we're terrible at shipping. So it wasn't our favorite. And we were just like, could we do an online store and
Hmm.
then sell the products that we're actually using and that we care about and, that we're excited about and, you know, have one that's good for our community, but it's like a decent online art store that other people could shop in if they wanted to. And we decided that we maybe could do that. And so we decided to give that a go. So
So do you ship from your house? Do you have like
no,
a
no, I
stock room?
actually have a warehouse partner that ships for me.
Oh, wow.
So I don't have
So
to
how
work
many, yeah,
because I
how
can't.
many employees do you have then between like the YouTube channel and your art store and
One. We have one. We have so we pretty much do everything ourselves. And we have an incredible, like our moderators and stuff, they're volunteers. They're just people who've watched the show for a very long time. We have one person to help us with the art store and the business logistics. And we have a little part-time person that helps me with moving the website and website
Mhm.
management, which we can't do. So we can't do the website management. And we can't, I think at our height, we had like 3 employees.
That's a lot. You're doing a lot, you and John. Does
Yeah.
John have a side hustle too, or does he work
This
just
is,
straight with your business?
we decided to go all in for this. Actually, my husband's friends from his industry had convinced him that he was so excited about what we were doing online and he so loves what we do that they were like, dude, you should just do that. Just do that because that's what you're
Mm.
excited about. And so we made the decision to be like, all right, can we just do that? And can we get by on just a YouTube income? Because again, we're not like Mr. Beast who's making
Mm.
that money hand over fist kind of a thing. It's definitely a small business like you'd expect a
Mm.
small business to be, and it has all the struggles that a regular small business would have.
Yeah.
But the
Yeah. So it's
rewards,
it's
like
you
it's a
two,
small business and that can be
right?
rewarding too.
Absolutely. So it's you two and a part-timer and a full-timer, and that's it for everything that you put out and your
Yeah.
store and everything. That's a lot. That's a lot on your shoulders. Um, Why did you decide to talk about your mental health struggle online this year?
So that was one I went around with and around with and around with. But what had happened to me, I felt like was so unexpected. No one I knew it could happen to me. I didn't know it could happen to me. Um, and as I went through the hospital process, I learned it could actually happen to a large number of people, much larger than I expected. And I was like, I could make up a bunch of story, like I could make up a convenient story about why I was offline. I don't like to be dishonest with my community, though. I'm bad at it, and it makes me super uncomfortable. So I just tend not to do it, even when it's something like this. And so we just thought about it, and we were like, would it be helpful? Would it be useful to anyone if we shared what was going on? And um, John was going through so much at the time because me being in the hospital was just, he was running the whole show himself, and it was really just freaking him out. And we realized that talking about it, the benefit of that was potentially like if we just helped two people who might go through what I was going through, let two people know, hey, if you're forgetting your songs or you can't remember how to draw, or, oh, the other thing was like sometimes it was like Percy Jackson. I couldn't read words. Sometimes the words would all swim on a sign. And I just thought I was having a
Wow.
vision issue. In fact, I had set up so many appointments. I was hearing things, seeing things. I had set up a hearing appointment, a vision appointment, all these regular doctor's appointments because I thought I was having age related issues.
Yeah.
So I wasn't treating them as the mental health issues they were. I was treating them as age related issues. And it was great because I kept those appointments even though I went through the hospital thing. I went to that and I have perfectly fine hearing and my vision is totally the same. And it was all in my head. And so they actually like, no, it is all in your head. And it just felt like it would help people if I talked about it. Just like let them know it's a thing
Yeah.
that could happen.
Oh, I agree. First of all, I don't think anybody owes the public a window into their private life if they're having struggles, if they're not comfortable sharing that. But when I saw that video go up where you were talking about where you've been and what had been going on, there were you had some alarming empathies or similarities where I was like, oh, I felt like that before. And it kind of was a little bit of a wake up call that like you need to pay attention to these things and not just because my philosophy is the only way around is through it. It's just like in 2 weeks, I'll take a rest in 2 weeks. I really just want to get this done. Oh, 2 weeks from now, then I'm gonna go lay in the sun in 2 weeks. But right now I gotta, get this. And I'm like, I'm doing fine. I'm totally capable. I'm just gonna push through. And then all of a sudden I'll feel terrible and I don't know why. It's like, why can't I be productive today? So listening to you explain what you had gone through was kind of like, you need to make sure that you watch out for those red flags. If something like that can happen to Cinnamon, it certainly could happen to you too.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that was helpful. I'm glad you posted that out there.
Yeah, I heard from a lot of YouTube creators that we've all known through the same kind of circle this whole time. That same thing, like, because YouTube asks a lot. It's because you can't make 2,500 videos and then just go, that's enough. I've made all the videos. Because
Mhm.
sometimes now I'm just like, man, I've painted this. I'm like down to like a shoe bill and an echidna, like for things I haven't painted, right? I'm like down to some really
Mhm.
weird animals, Precambrian explosion. Maybe I could paint some of that.
Mhm.
I painted things a lot, but as you know, you can't just let the channel sit. You
Mhm.
constantly the platforms all require new content ongoing all the time. And so
Mhm.
my mom calls it like the hamster wheel, like you're on a hamster wheel and you can't get off.
Mhm.
And she was
Yeah.
having that experience too. She was having a similar experience to me where she was just, YouTube asks you on some basic level to work harder than probably you should.
Mhm.
When I heard
Right.
Mr. Beast talking about, I know I talk about him a lot, but you think about him because he's at the pinnacle of what we do. And he's in the the highest level of pressure chamber. And I watched an interview with him, was talking about the intensity of his life. And I was like, yeah, that's exactly, other people look at that and they have envy. They have envy of his success and they have envy of his money. And all I have when I look at him is just sympathy and empathy. And I just want to give the guy a cocoa and just be like, it's going to be okay, because I know how hard he has to run personally to just keep up on. It's why I don't think people should put kids on online. It's you can't do it. I just don't. One, I don't know how a kid could consent to it, and two,
Yeah.
I know that's a strong statement, not to get you into like trouble or anything, but I really strongly feel that. I feel like kids working online, even doing unboxing, even unboxing toys, is a mistake, because once you have success, once that catches, it doesn't stop. And I, as an adult, struggle to keep up with the workload. I can't even imagine how some of these young creators, and even under 25, these young creators, how do they handle that pressure cooker? I just have a lot of empathy when I see somebody out there in the middle of those fires dealing with that.
Yeah. And I think the other thing that people don't realize is that it takes more work to get what you achieved. Like if you used to be able to get that amount of success with this, and let's say 60% work, now it's going to take 80% work to get to that same level. Then it's going to take 100% work to get to that same level. And when you find yourself working harder and harder and harder, but you're not getting the same results, you've either plateaued or you've started to decline. And it, like my husband will say, well, you like don't expect that to last at that rate. I mean, you're going great now, but and not to say it like it wasn't like a put down. It was just like, you're in an upswing, but don't, expect it's always going to go like that, because just it can't always go like that. That's just, but in my mind, I'm like, oh yeah, sure, sure. But I'm thinking, oh no, I'm going to go like this, and then I'm going to keep going like this. I'm going to keep going like this. And then when things start to even off and plateau and then decline, and you're still putting in all that work, you're just thinking, well, it must be me, because
Yeah.
why don't people like me anymore? Why don't they like I should be getting better because I'm doing it longer. And then when my husband left his job to work with me, he's gone back to radio since then, but he worked with me for about 3 years. I'm like, I have every advantage. I got in early. I have a whole other person helping me. Why can't I grow? Why am I declining? I mean, I'm practicing more. I'm doing more. I'm working more. Why am I getting less in return for my efforts? And all you just think is just it's got to be me. I'm the reason why it's not working, and it's just so demoralizing. And to put a child through that is just cruel, I think. Us putting ourselves through it is pretty darn cruel at times, but
Yeah, but we're adults. We can sit there and say, I have signed up for this, and all that comes
yeah.
with it. Just,
Mhm.
when I was new to YouTube, I let the kids make minor appearances, but I don't
Mhm.
let them do any more at all. And they get frustrated with that, because of course they want to be online. Of course they want their friends to see them there. And I'm like, I don't know how to explain. I'm like, I know you think that, but you can't consent to everything that means, because you can't possibly
Mhm.
understand what it means to be out there in the public eye and have people just be able to say anything they want to say and do anything they want to do in relationship to you, and that video then exists forever and ever and ever and ever. And years and years ago, before acrylic April, and I couldn't do April Fools. Back when I could do April Fools, my son was really little, and he wanted to pretend to be me and teach a video.
Aw.
Yeah, and he was great. He was fantastic. He taught a whole little video step by step. He was like 6, 7. He was just cute as a button, and just did a little painting, and it was wonderful, and it was great. And I ended up having to turn the comments off, because I was like,
Mm.
there was so much creepy stuff
Mm.
where I was like, I'm in art. I'm nowhere near the verticals that
Wow.
would be attracting that. We should be completely clear, and yet we're not. Like,
Yeah.
I'm seeing commenters that I've never seen before, and they're overly concerned
Mm.
about where my son is, and they're overly like, when is he
Ugh.
going to be back on? And they're not my regular community. And I'm like, this is it. It hit every single alarm bell, and I just was like, that was just the
Mhm.
last one. I was like, okay, well, this is a weird space, that has this potential, and we just don't do that anymore. And I do think I think YouTube's responsible for it, because YouTube lets the people do it. Like, I think YouTube is as responsible for these kids being on the platform as their parents, actually.
Yeah, YouTube does a lot of kind of like I don't know what you want to call it, kind of like nudge, nudge, wink, wink type of advice where it's like just like creators can take a break whenever they want to take a break. If you're feeling, stressed, take a break, take a couple weeks off, but your channel will be punished. If you've taken a day off from a regular posting, your channel gets punished. So
Yeah.
they'll say stuff like that. They'll say, uh remember when COPPA was happening, the big COPPA thing like that. They were very unclear with how people should proceed with their channels. I had a channel that was I did a video about because I had sea monkeys that lived a very long time. I had these like geriatric sea monkeys, and I did a video about the sea monkeys because people asked me about them. But I was getting so many comments from children on that video that I turned the comments off because I'm like, I
Yeah.
was afraid that kids would get a comment and then they would get a comment with other people, or they would have comments with each other. I'm like, no, we're just turning those off because I don't want to be responsible for a child leaving a comment and getting, having some weirdo talk to them. Or even just the fact that I didn't want my channel to appeal towards children because I was worried that it would get flagged, or they were threatening $40,000 fines if people didn't like comply with
Oh yeah.
COPPA at that time. And it was so confusing. But yeah, and they tell people to be safe, but then they'll recommend videos just generally on the homepage that are of kids, like kid gymnasts doing like gymnastic routines and stuff. It's like, why are they recommending that video to an adult?
Yeah.
It's like, I'm not a sporty person. I'm not watching, you know, figure skating or gymnastics or something. It's like, so how many creepos are they promoting
Yeah.
that video to? If,
Too
if
many.
somebody doesn't even watch that content, too many, exactly.
Too
So,
many. And so we have the YouTube membership, so we don't have to do ads, and we have a family account, but we like to watch off my husband's YouTube channel. And the algorithm over there has no idea who we are because the kids watch on his channel, he watches on the channel I watch, and I swear you can almost see it guessing. Do you want gardening? Do you like gardening? I have all the gardening. Oh wait, no, you watched a mechanical thing. Is it cars? Did you like cars? Oh no, it's otters. Do you want to see animals? Here's some dodo. Like, it doesn't know who we are because like somebody will get on there and watch. But you can see it try to respond. And every once in a while it will throw a video at us where we're like, I don't know who it thought we were, but we weren't that person. I'm just like, where I'm just like, literally, like, practically, like, put the controller down. Ick.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do not recommend this channel under the
Yeah, I love
three
that.
dot
I'm
thing.
like, no more, no more, no more.
But the other thing that's kind of creepy, if you think about it, is that because what you see when you're recommending a video is title and thumbnail.
Mm-hmm.
And the fact that there are parents that are putting the thumbnail of these videos, like say it's a gymnastic competition, they're showing a thumbnail that is very, like I say, inappropriate, but it's going to appeal to unsavory
Oh, I think,
demographic.
and with my eldest, who, obviously is an adult and can have their own social media account, but we've had this conversation of like, who is this video for? What is the purpose of this? Like, we went to a thing called ClamorCon, which was a big convention for larger YouTubers, mostly in the family space. So it's all the superstar kids. And I have to say, like, talking to the moms, my question is like, but who is it really for? Who is this thumbnail really for? Like, why is this even out here? Like, why does this need to exist? In any kind of a way, like, and there's just a lot of it that doesn't have really a purpose for existing except, to get clicks. And then you have to ask yourself, but why is it getting the clicks? And I think that, I think as parents, we have I think we have some guidance, internal guidance to know when things are weird. And I think, definitely some of that content out there is just super weird. Like, and you will be like, this video has no reason to, a kid swimming in Orbeez doesn't need 145 million views. That's a
Mm,
weird thing.
yeah.
And it's not kids watching it because I look at the comments. So I'm just like, yeah, it's that juice is definitely not worth the squeeze.
Yeah.
But young people, they really want to be on YouTube.
Hmm.
They
Yeah.
want to
They
be
don't
on TikTok. They
understand
want to be
the,
out there.
yeah. Yeah. Yeah, my daughters wanted to do, well, actually, they did a little crafting channel, but I set it up as a second channel on mine. I was very reserved about it. And they didn't get any weirdos. Well, I read all the comments before they got to see them anyways, but it didn't attract any weirdos, but it was also stayed a small channel, small channel. The thumbnails were very much like not them in that so much as like a picture of whatever craft they were making. And, they lost interest after, probably 6 months or so. So,
Yeah, and
which
they
is,
were
which is
older,
fine.
and it was a different time in YouTube. They were older kids,
That's
and it's a
true.
different time
That's
in
true.
YouTube. Yeah.
But even now, I am because my one of my daughter Maisie is a singer-songwriter, and she's been uh, distributing her music on Spotify and Apple Music and stuff. And when
Oh,
she has an EP
congratulations.
drop, yeah, so when she has an EP drop, I'll like share it on my Instagram, and I'll like put a link to her Spotify page and whatnot. But I mean, other than that, I've always been very um, uh, if I'm wishing happy birthday to my kids, I actually probably wouldn't wish them a happy birthday on my social media, or if I did show like, because I do put a few slice of life pictures. Like we went to the Barbie movie,
Mhm.
so we all dressed up in pink and went and just shared that on social media because I don't have I I think the creep factor on my social media is pretty small. My audience is older female. I don't get as much.
Yeah.
There's a few that leak through, but it's generally all right. But like I generally won't tag them in the photos because I don't want I I wouldn't want anyone to follow them and be like a weirdo or anything. And they're adults, but still,
No, yeah, even with the
be very
adults.
careful about it.
Yeah, I used to post more about the kids online, but have been reluctant to do that even as much, because I'm just like, what I'm doing now. And I think also this awareness now is because, things have changed. Like,
Mm,
2007 on YouTube was very different than 2011, is very different than 2014. It's just a completely world different in 2020. And now here in
mm,
2024, it's just, again, completely different. And so, and Facebook is true of that too, where I'm much less likely to put up even the birthday stuff anymore, because I'll just send all the
mm,
grandparents that need pictures directly. I just disseminate the
mm.
pictures directly. Like, if
Yep.
we're talking and we're good, and you should be getting pictures of the kids, you will be getting pictures of the kids. And I
Mm,
just don't, because it used to be when I had this social media from the time when I wasn't on there. So my original YouTube channel was literally a place to share baby videos with grandparents. Right? They
mm,
were unlisted. You'd send them the link and they could see videos. So on my channel, going back like practically 2007, are little baby videos, you know, and and then all of a sudden, and those are all private now, but they're all still there. That's what's so funny, is all those old videos are still there. They're just all private now. And then Facebook was the same thing too. It was just to stay in touch with family and to, stay connected, which I think is how most people use social media, and is probably its best use, right? It's in a healthy way to stay connected. Um, but now that I have such an audience, it's just changed. It just changed around me. It grew
mm,
around us, and definitely, um, uh, you know, I find that I don't like strangers weighing in on my kids sometimes in a negative way. Also,
yeah, I wouldn't want anyone, even people I know, weighing in on my kids in a negative way,
yeah,
especially in a public forum.
yeah, but it does happen on occasion,
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
kids are, they have their own choices and they live their own life, and you know,
Mm,
we're in this weird place in social media where everybody has to like lose their minds over everything, as far as I can tell. It's just super saturated.
yeah. I think that. I think we have to be very careful on how we use social media, especially because we have a platform on YouTube. I mean, we're not the biggest YouTubers in the world, but there are people that watch us and look up to us and will base what they post or what they say or how they act online by what they see people that they look up to or they follow doing. And so there's something that I notice, and these are just, and this is not even with like celebrity social media accounts, just like people I know in real life, and things that I find a little bit dangerous, whether dangerous for their own personal well-being or dangerous for the community at large. And one thing we all know about, like, don't post vacation pictures while you're like away. I mean, and I felt a little weird posting stuff from the art retreat I just did, but that's kind of part of the deal, part of what you sign up for when you're doing like you've signed up to this retreat. They want to, you want to show people what you're doing, and that's for both the company that's sending you and also the other, uh, you're having a good time and you want, the guests to feel validated and they're going, and you are having a good time and you want to share that. But also there's that little bit of a weirdness where it's like, well, I wouldn't want somebody to, bother my house sitters or anything like that, or you wouldn't want to like you'd give too much away or have people know where you are in real life in case somebody wants to come out to the venue and I don't know, crash your crash your party or whatever, just
I don't know.
just on that safety style.
An art crasher
But
I could probably take. Someone crashing an art party with their art supplies is very low threatening. We're very
yeah, as long
lucky.
as they are. Yeah, as long as
Yeah.
they are an artist. Yeah, we are very lucky. There aren't too many weirdos out there. But then the other thing, like I'll see people post photos where it's like it's kind of in that same haul genre where it's like, look at my big house, look at my cute car, look at my pile of Christmas presents under the Christmas tree, look at all of that. And that stuff really um rubs me the wrong way, because whenever I see that, like the say the Christmas tree with tons of presents around it, I'm like, that's beautiful, but there's probably a lot of people seeing that probably are feeling insecure or like, well, they couldn't do that for their family and makes them feel bad, or seeing like your home renovation and feeling bad because they can't do that for their home. And so I'm like also very, very hesitant to post anything like that online, because I don't want to make other people feel bad feelings at all. I wouldn't want somebody to feel either like, oh, I can't do that for my house, so I feel bad. I don't, or I wouldn't want them to feel like, oh, why doesn't she have a bigger house? She should have a bigger house for, where she is in her career, both ways, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? And I think back to a YouTuber that I know you used to follow. I don't know if you still follow, but it's somebody that I've also, seen some videos from time to time, the YouTuber Graveyard Girl.
Oh
And I
yeah.
remember when she did this like house tour, and it's like, oh my God, she lives in a mansion. And in my mind, I thought she's just kind of like living in a regular house, like a regular person, going to thrift stores, doing, and she had like all these cars. And I'm like, oh my word. And like going to Starbucks a couple times a day. And I was like, oh wow. Then I kind of felt like I'm not like this person. This is very unrelatable. But before I felt like, oh, she's just like us, doing our thing, living
Yeah.
regular lives, going to the, putting, because like she just seemed like just like a regular person. I'm sure she's just a regular person, but you know what I mean? Just when I saw that, it kind of made me feel a little like, oh, I don't know why. I don't know why seeing like all those cars and the mansion made me feel weird, but I felt weird when I saw that. And I felt, okay, what I feel is that I don't feel part of the community anymore. I don't feel like I relate anymore. And I wouldn't want other people that are here for the art to feel like they can't
Oh,
relate.
that's a good
You know what I
point.
mean? I don't have a mansion. Let me just set the record straight. I don't have a mansion, but you know what
Myself
I mean?
either. No mansion. It's by any means. By any
But I
means.
just didn't like that yeah, and it was material things. It didn't matter, but for some reason seeing that made me feel like I don't relate to this person anymore. And I didn't want I never want somebody else to look at that and feel like, I guess I don't relate to her. I guess we can't be friends because we're so different, or you know what I mean?
Well, it's hard to walk that line of being aspirational. I think a lot about the parasocial and seroposial dynamic of what we do, because it's not like being a celebrity, because a celebrity has a bubble. They're insulated from the world on some basic level. They've got a team. Like if there's a nasty comment, I'm the one that's going to read it. I'm going to be the one that decides what to do about it. I don't have a team looking at that. Like sometimes I have volunteers who
Yep.
catch it for me, but like a lot of times it's just me. And these relationships are real. Like I'm emotionally invested in my community. Like I know where they're at in their health challenges. I know, like I think I've lost members of my community, over the years where you've lost people. It's like, it's so much more intimate and involved and entrenched. And I think being situationally aware to how the things that we put out into the online world, like if you were at a dinner party, you would be aware that you wouldn't want to be bragging about all the presents under your tree, and you wouldn't be talking about the cars that you bought. You wouldn't do any of that. You wouldn't go through and like if somebody came over to your house, you wouldn't be like, this is my new car and this is my new code and this is, you would never do that because we would know that's socially awkward at best and, really not okay at worst. But online, a lot of those social guidelines that used to drive people, that used to like allow us all to be in a room and have different opinions and not murder each other. You remember those times in the before times.
Yeah.
But what that was, how that worked was a social construct, which we all agreed, hey, we're not going to talk about these topics over dinner because people get upset and we don't want to upset anybody. But online, people will just infinitely and ongoingly say things that they would never do or say at a dinner party because they would know it was rude and can make people feel uncomfortable, and they wouldn't want to do that. And they're nice people. They wouldn't want to do that. And so like being a little bit aware of like, oh, this post goes out to, everyone who can see my account, everyone who can see this post in its current privacy setting, I'm amazed at how little people do think about what they're saying online is. Like, would you ever go into a room and yell, if someone doesn't like this post, you're not going to be my friend anymore? You would never do that. You would never go into your, like a room of your friends and be like, if I don't hear from everyone here right now that they like me, you're out of my life. But regularly I will see people post like, that post about, well, I'm online and I want friends. And if you, comment on this post, if you want to remain my friend, and I just want to, you work online. I just want to go, that's not how the algorithm works. Your first thought here is wrong. Like your friends, if they're not liking your post, it's because they didn't see it, because the algorithm didn't show it to them. Because just because they're your friend and you put it up doesn't mean everybody under your friend list saw that post, has any idea what's going on. Even those things surface, as the algorithm dictates. And so like, I think one of the nice things about doing what we do is you do get a behind the curtains kind of look at that. And I do think that thinking about what we put out there a little more would benefit us all a little bit.
Yeah. And I think, oh, totally. And I think a lot of the reasons why people will say these polarizing things online, or even say, like the Christmas tree with all the presents, do this stuff online, is because they don't have to deal with the consequences of their actions, because they're not going to see these people in real life, and they may feel good posting something in the moment like, ha, I got you, or look how great I am, or even if something political, be like, ha, I really stuck it to you by sharing that meme, because they don't have to deal with the consequences. They're not nobody's gonna be right in their face, be like, oh yeah, you want to have an argument about that. They could just post it and leave it and not have to interact again. So I think that's a big reason. If you're at a dinner party and you walk up to somebody and say, "Rah, rah, 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 rah," someone might argue back with them, or they might
Yeah.
get in a fight. Who knows?
Yeah. It
It's
has consequences. It has real world social
yeah.
consequences. So we have to learn how to navigate those. And I mean, being online, like teaching online, I obviously have to think about the things I say. Like I know, like I've got families that watch me, so I don't necessarily cuss, even though in real life I might cuss a little bit. In regular
Mm-hmm.
life, everything is real life. That's the other thing. Everything is real life, but the hour that I'm painting is the best that I am all day. So like people see
Mm-hmm.
me at my best because of course I'm at my best. I'm painting. It's delightful. I'm so happy to be there. I'm making something I like. I'm sharing it
Yeah.
with people I like. Even if I was miserable before I turn the cameras on, I'm going to feel worlds better because I'm now doing something creative. But that doesn't mean that all day,
Mm-hmm.
through the whole day, I'm exactly what you see on camera because I couldn't be. I can't be that one dimensional. I have to be more things than that. And so,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I'm situationally aware online and I realize I'm in people's houses, right? And a variety of people's houses from different backgrounds who have
Mm-hmm.
different needs. And it's such a non-issue for me to just be a little bit present
Mm-hmm.
to what I'm saying or doing, just a little bit. And
Mm-hmm.
and not to please the online, not to please the netosphere or the netizens, right? Because like you're well aware that no matter what you're doing, like it doesn't matter if you say I love puppies and puppies and rainbows are the best. Somebody's going to come by and be like, no, I hate puppies and I hate rainbows, and here's all the reasons why. Because it's the internet,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah.
And
What
I think
about kittens?
right. I think we accept that. But then there's like, definitely putting stuff out there that you wouldn't just go into a grocery store and scream. So sometimes when I
Mm-hmm.
see like a post in all caps, like what I imagine is that person going into a public square or space and just screaming those words. Cause that's essentially what they did. They went into a public space and in all caps screamed anything. And even if I went into a town square and I screamed puppies and rainbows, are the
Mm-hmm.
best and people that don't like puppies and rainbows suck, that would be such a weird social behavior and I would get so many
Mm-hmm.
strange reactions. But people go
Yeah.
online and they don't. And I think that's one of the things about getting to do what we've done for the last 10 years and growing up on it and having evolved. Because again, I used to let the kids be on my show, but I wouldn't let them be on my show now because as it's evolved, as I've evolved, as I understand what the online world actually is, you know, not just what I aspirationally want it to be or not just what it's in my bubble. Cause my bubble's fantastic. Your bubble's fantastic. We have the best bubble. Like our bubble, our
We do.
community bubble is the best. Like I've had community members show up unannounced at my house and I have to say it wasn't that scary.
Oh.
It just, even that was surprising and unexpected and, I wouldn't necessarily do it. I have to say, listening to somebody like, honestly, example would be Bunny Myers. Her experience with somebody coming by her house, very different than mine. Mine was just a nice lady that wanted to do some art. Was very
Mm.
excited to meet me and do some painting. My danger level was real low, but I can see where outside of my bubble, that's not really true for the whole net.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And our bubble's really flimsy. It's kind of an imaginary
Mm.
bubble. It's just how the
Yeah.
algorithm feels today. My kid the other line was online doing a live stream. They're an adult, they can do that, and they ended up
Mm.
on the wrong side of TikTok.
Oh.
Yeah, and it was 48,000 people just saying the worst stuff you can imagine.
Wow.
And I was just, I have to tell you, that's the most scared I've ever been, having been online. In all the years I've been online, I was just like,
Holy
I,
cow.
I was like, I wouldn't do that ever. Like, but it wasn't that they've done anything. It's just that's how the algorithm served it out today.
Yeah. Wow. Do you think the fact that there's so many people online and it's so saturated that in order to be noticed, people have to be more extreme? Do you think that's why they're being more extreme?
Yeah, I think that. Well, I think outrage um, gets the most clicks. I think we've all seen all the studies, and I think it's very tempting as creators, especially if you're trying to do this for a living, if you're under the pressure of the hamster wheel, if you're going through all of this, to use something like outrage as a community driver. It's tempting to use outrage. I've certainly seen people do it in our space. You can use outrage in the creative space. I've seen people do it. I think you can use outrage in any space, and it's effective. And shock is effective. But a doctor friend of mine, I was at an art retreat, and just a bunch of different artists and writers, working on their current projects. It was a really fantastic thing I got to do. And I was working on, I think, a coloring book at the time. And this doctor friend of mine works with people with special needs in the state level. And it's just like amazing. He's like magic. And he just said the most incredible thing. He's like, you need to really think about where you hold people's attention and what that space is like for them. And he was talking about like what I was painting, like, where I was putting the focus on my paint, the drawing in, but he was like, I realized that that's really kind of a global thing, which is that I need to be really present to the emotional space because I'm coming into somebody's life. They've invited me in because they think we're going to paint. Mm-hmm. Reasonable assumption. That's what the title said, how to paint for beginners, step by step. It'll be some version of that. And they thought reasonably. But if I were to go left on something that was outrage based, then I'd kidnap them into an outrage experience when they just came by to paint and probably relax a little bit and not be upset. And I'm never going to get as many clicks as somebody who can put up a really outrageous title that would make you angry almost just to read it. That's always going to do better.
Yeah. Oh yeah, any video that I have that's like things that irk me about blah blah. I did a video called "Things That Irk Me About Card Making" because it was a few years ago, and I was just really getting fed up with the constant release of products and the constant, hey, oh, that's another hamster wheel, the constant like, get this thing, use this thing, then they're going to discontinue the thing, so you need to get the next thing. And I did a video about that, and that got so many views. I did a video talking about Temu a few months ago, and I mean, there weren't really any big hot takes. It's just like, maybe think about it if you're buying something that is a counterfeit, and just basically, not any hot takes, but that title brought in so much more traffic than just, let's learn some techniques on this, or let's paint this project together, because it either appeals to more people than what's in the bubble, or it incites a reaction out of people because they want some juicy tea. They want some gossip. They want they want to be outraged, or they want to hear the drama or something.
Well, irk is like, even in your wording though, look how you choose to word it. You like, it irks me, right? Like you're downgrading the level of outrage. Anyways, you're just saying like, these are frustrating things. And I think we all get frustrated in the studio. But like, I would say more like the conflict between creators. When you see two creators get into like an inflated conflict, like they're really like looking to create outrage between communities.
On purpose?
Yeah, for sure.
Oh, because I haven't seen that.
Yeah,
I've had conflict before, but it's never been on purpose.
No, we wouldn't, but I mean, not in our little niche, but in the creative space, you'll occasionally see that go off. I've seen creators call out other creators in the creative space, for sure. Wow.
Artists?
Because art has ended up on blast more than one time, and then has come back, and then there's been back and forth. There's definitely, I watch a lot of YouTube. I have it on when I'm painting or I'm designing. I'm interested in what other people are doing too. So like I watch a lot of YouTube. And so sometimes I'll catch up on that. I think I think it's a good idea sometimes to tell people what you don't like in art supplies. And I could hot take Temu until it was boiling.
Been ripped off.
Yeah.
It seems like I've seen paintings of yours done as like diamond painting designs and probably shower curtains, different things like that.
It's so exhausting.
Yeah. Oh, I don't know how you cope with that.
They have AI now. They don't need to steal from me anymore. They've got AI.
I've really steal though.
Huh?
But they still steal. I see stolen stuff advertised to me because I don't even go to Temu, but I'll be scrolling on
Yeah.
social media and I'll see an ad, even Amazon actually. So it's not even just Temu. I'll see, well, because I'm still pretty active, or I still am very interested in the rubber stamping world, and I do some card making and stamping, and I will see products that I know come from legit companies sold on Amazon under some like alphabet soup name, and it's like, wow, Amazon, you're if I do a review on an Amazon product and I use the word dupe in the video description, they threaten to take my Amazon Associates account away. Even if I'm just saying, Prismacolor discontinued these two lilac colored pencils. Here are some replacements you can buy from other companies that are completely legit because I just swatched them side by side. But since I used the word dupe in the title or the description, they threaten to take my account away unless I change the wording. If it's not a counterfeit, it's just like these happen to be comparable colors, but they will go ahead and advertise products that are counterfeits
Hmm.
on social media, and like it's nothing, after like accusing honest creators of promoting counterfeits, which didn't do, and you're promoting counterfeits. So it's so
No, and
ridiculous.
it's such a pain. I do DMCI takedowns all the time. And you have to do them. You can't do batch versions for Amazon. You've got to do
Mhm.
them individually. I've gotten very good at takedowns and copyright takedowns. So like on Amazon, like, so if they steal something, I can't necessarily get their whole page removed, but anytime that they used any of my intellectual property, I can get all of that removed. And if I remove enough of it, then I can cause that page grief. And I have like, honestly, I've reached out to other artists when I see their stuff stolen, and I don't just reach out to them, but I give them the links on how to report it and how to have it taken down off the website, like how to like create, you know, holy HE double hockey sticks all the way through for this person, because it's like, but Amazon is probably the worst offender, I think.
Yeah. So is the juice worth the squeeze on doing the DMCI takedowns? Because they just pop back up again, and you have such limited time, and how much is it worth going after? I mean, what do you do? Do you go after it, or do you just let it ride? Is it taking money? Do you think the people that are buying those cheap counterfeits would ever buy anything from you? That's the thing. I don't I don't know where it makes sense, Is
Yeah.
it worth looking for these things? And because I remember I've seen my videos being re-uploaded on, this doesn't seem to happen as much, or maybe I just don't know about it as much, but like people would email me and say, your video's up on this website, and it's not an embed. They've downloaded it and re-uploaded it somehow. But it's like, it's got 13 views. Is anyone going to see it? Is it even worth contacting anybody? Because you could drive yourself crazy, and that could be a full-time job, just
Oh, it would be.
reporting copyright.
I think it's useful. I think I find it useful when I'm mad and I'm
Hmm.
frustrated
Oh,
and I want to do something about it. But no, absolutely candidly, it's not effective because they
hmm.
can repopulate it faster than you can take it down. Maybe now, maybe with these new like agents or something, maybe there'll be a batch way of doing it in the future that's somehow more convenient. Um, but yeah, no, it's definitely a placebo. It's definitely a placebo for how I'm feeling in the moment, and not particularly effective on the actual war of content. But the thing is that these businesses, they're going to steal the content.
Hmm.
They're going to, and oftentimes they're not subject to American law because their companies aren't based in the U.S. So the
Right.
copyright law for them is different than it is for us. And the only agency I have is how it's published across. Like I have agency over whether Google surfaces it. I have agency over whether a website hosts it. I have agency over whether
Hmm.
Facebook will show it, or Amazon allows it to be up. But the business itself, I have no way to be impactful for it. I have to go register my copyright in that country and then figure out what
Oh,
those countries' rules
yeah.
are for doing that. And it's generally not cheap and it's problematic. And you're right, it's for how many views
Hmm.
or how many sales, and are these people buying from us? No, probably not. You know,
Yeah.
it's kind of like to the AI thing. Like I definitely was one of the artists in the training sets. Was not as upsetting for me.
Mm-hmm.
I was just sort of
Yeah,
like,
it's a
how is that any different than what everybody does right now, except it's better at it? That's how I felt. I was like, that's
yeah.
what everybody does right now. They just do it in their little human brains. And then they do their best to try to do that. Like anime is a whole genre because a group of artists train themselves on somebody's art style and then kind of put their own spin into it. And then it becomes a whole
Mm-hmm.
school of art. But it started out one person drawing one particular way that caught on. It's kind of what we do as artists on some basic level, as uncomfortable as that might be. That's kind of what's going on, especially when you're talking about inspiration or styles or trends or any of that, you know. So I was kind
But
of
there
like,
is effort involved.
huh?
There's effort involved when a human is learning a style and learning how
Oh,
to
yeah.
paint, learning how to draw. So there's effort involved, which I feel like makes it more valuable versus an algorithm just creating artwork, which kind of takes that effort away and takes that value away. I think that's where the big issue maybe is coming from with
Oh, I
that,
understand where the big issue is coming from. I didn't, I had a different perspective on it. I had a different perspective on the copyright. I had a different perspective on all of it because I was like, I knew that the laws weren't in place. I absolutely understood
Mm,
exactly what raindrops they were dancing through to train these data sets. And I was
mm,
like, and I went and looked and I was like, yeah, I'm definitely in here. And then I'm like, well, I'm discoverable in the AI. You know what I mean? I'm like, I'm teaching
mm.
everyone how to paint like me anyways. It'd be a weird space for me to like
Yeah.
really, really lose my kid over. But I don't know. I have, it's been interesting to see, everyone react to it. It's definitely changed everything. I still think though that I, I can say personally in my own viewing habits, content that's under a year old, if it sounds to me like it was written by AI or the voice sounds it or the images, I don't
Hmm.
watch it.
Yeah.
I want to, not that there's anything wrong with it, right? Like I'm not even judging it. I'm just not that interested in a synthetic video or synthetic
Hmm.
data or synthetic art or not. And not that I'm not impressed. Like the new video coming out. Oh my goodness. I don't even know how people are going to have any idea what's real anymore,
Mm.
but I'm still much more interested in like what Lindsay's doing, not a synthetic version of Lindsay,
Mm.
and I think that my personal feeling is, and you can totally have a different feeling than this. I'm totally comfortable with that. Um, but my personal feeling is that people will start to prefer people. There'll be a preference of people seeking people, and
Mm.
this tech will find its, I don't know, uses. I think I worry about my friends in gaming, artists in gaming, artists in graphic design. I worry about artists
Yeah.
in those spaces because I'm like, yeah, for sure. Is a company going to sit there and use this incredibly cheap, almost practically free tool instead of paying somebody money? Well, I've met those guys. I've had to collect bills from those guys. Yeah, for sure. Those guys are definitely going to use, like, I've had to collect
Yeah.
money as an artist. I know how much different businesses in different spaces don't want to um, pay artists,
Mm.
you know. But for the purposes of like an original painting, I think people are still going to buy original paintings. And honestly, I think that they're still going to have to work with artists because it still takes an artist to be able to look at whatever's being done and say this is working or this isn't working or correct it or fix it or have direction
Mm.
over it. So, oh, sorry, I didn't mean to drag you into the AI conversation.
Oh no, no, that's hey, I love to see where the conversations go because I think that's always where the gold is and where the interesting stuff is. And I think as teachers, people are always going to want to learn, and I think it's going to be, and people want to learn from people. So I think our jobs are safe for a while, at least. Now you probably do you have to get going? Do I
No,
just don't
I'm
want to keep you
okay
longer
because
than?
I'm here on my phone. I can push my off button. John's getting the kids, so I'm all right. But if you need to go, I'm good.
Okay. Okay, good. I didn't want to keep you too long. Yeah, the AI conversation is uh I'm glad I'm not an illustrator, I guess, basically. I'm not too worried about it, but at first I was kind of like, oh, that's really it's really good for what it's doing. But then I was like, but I'm not an illustrator. I'm an art teacher. It's not coming for me yet, I guess, but it's so interesting.
Well, and I just think there'll just be behavior set in people. Like, I mean, there'll be places like in data and coding, and I can see industries that are definitely going to be changed. I stay up
Hmm.
on it. I noticed it when it was first happening, and I stay up on it. It's actually a whole area that's fascinating to me. Um, I haven't made a video on it on my own channel because I didn't want to be in the storm of debate.
Hmm.
Like I've done videos on it in like for my patrons or in closed communities where I've talked about
Hmm.
like, because like this conversation here, like I mean, in a week it'll all change, and next week it'll all change. Like you can't almost
Yeah.
have an opinion anymore that will hold up more than 7 days. Because like if there isn't a
Mm.
new update or life changing discovery or some new earth shattering moment in artificial intelligence, then it's not been a week. I mean, it's constantly
Mm.
changing, so it's hard to even have an opinion that can hold because it honestly evolves underneath you so fast.
Yeah. Yeah, and I'm sure it's just like anything, any sort of technological advance, there'll be really great uses for it and there'll be nefarious uses for it. So like the bad uses being the deep fake videos, but the good uses for it would be people that have lost their voice. Like my father has MS and his voice is such a low level. I mean, if he did what I did for a living and he could put a script in and have it trained on his voice and have it read his voice. And there was another YouTuber, Kimberly Crick, who does the most beautiful reviews, art supply reviews. And she was dealing with a health issue that didn't allow her to talk for a long period of time. So she used an AI voice and it was great. It was trained on her voice. It sounded like her and it made it possible for her to put a video out. So I think stuff like that, where it's actually assisting humans and making humans better will be great. But I don't like the replacing of humans, like
Yeah.
replacing human artists, replacing poets and writers. I would think at some point it just kind of cannibalizes itself and everything is ultra generic and uber similar and just mediocre. But uh until then, or I don't know, maybe it will surpass us. I don't know, but
It
that
seems the direction seems to be surpassing us. It definitely does
yeah.
seem to be surpassing us. I had a I had a moment where how you Google yourself or you do those different weird, funny online things. I actually
Mhm.
went to a couple of the AIs and asked it to do me, to
Mhm.
to create art in my style, and it
Yeah.
did, and it was better than me. I was just
Oh
like,
no.
it's just like, well, fine. But I realized that's the technology. That's what it is. It's super intelligent. It's not this. It's a completely different thing than I am.
Mhm.
It's such a different animal altogether.
Mhm.
That I'm almost becoming kind of okay with how well it's doing, like how good it is at doing what it's good at. But I think you're right. Like, um, I I think where it's an issue is replacing people and
Mhm.
displacing people, and we don't have a plan for any of that. Like I'm now just starting to see graphic designers that I know like take hits.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're just now, and in gaming, I've had a lot of friends in
Mhm.
gaming take hits of lost jobs and stuff, and it's definitely the onset of AI that's brought it in. And I think a lot about lace making.
Mhm.
When it used to be you had to make it by hand, like tatting was like a by hand only kind of activity. And when they started making the machines, there's a YouTuber that did a good video on this. I wish I could remember his name, but it's the best it's like a really great one-to-one comparison. Once these machines came in to make lace, it just took away an industry from so many creatives. And so it no longer was a way to make a living. However, people still make lace by hand.
Mhm. Yeah, I think Italy pays like there's like it's a government program or a government give the Italian lace makers a stipend to keep the craft alive and to keep making lace. It's probably part of a tourist attraction as well, but my sister had gone and she said there's like lace makers there because the government pays to keep the industry afloat or the craft alive. And up in our way, we have a lot of Native American artisans and basket makers, and they they're still keeping the craft alive. And I don't know if there's any sort of funding for them other than them selling the baskets and teaching the classes on how to make the pack baskets and stuff. But I mean, as long as people value it, there'll be a way to keep
Yeah,
the crafts alive.
I think so.
So,
I think actually that's a really good idea. Like that would be a great solution is to, as these creatives are displaced, if there was some program to keep those crafts alive,
mhm.
you know?
Absolutely. So when you looked up like art in your style, did you give it a specific like did you have a painting idea like I think I might paint blah blah blah. Maybe I'll see what the AI would do in my style. Did you do it that way so you could at least get a reference image out of it to work from or
Well, I think it was just kind of like a morbid curiosity.
uh-huh.
And initially at the time, I was just wanted to see what it would do.
Hmm.
And I unfortunately got an answer. It was like, it would do well. It would
Oh
totally,
boy.
totally knew I like all the girls walking away in the rain. It had me down. ChatGPT, I like went and asked ChatGPT who the Art Sherpa was. It totally knew who I was. It described me. I was like, so I'm like, all right, well, I guess this is the new normal,
Wow.
is trying to find a way to deal with the new normal. And that's an interesting space to be in. It was humbling.
Hmm.
Was, but it was a good kind of humbling, right? Some kind of moments like that where you are able to sort of get over yourself a little bit,
Yeah.
get out of your own head, get over yourself and be like, okay, all right, well, why do I make art? I make art because
Hmm.
it's super enjoyable to do. Like it's the process of it. It's the activity of making it. And why do I love teaching? Well, I love sharing that passion with other people, and I love seeing them light up and them being able to get it and their whole light start to shine. And I realized for that dynamic, these new technologies could maybe be helpful, but they're really not relevant to me outside of that. Like my mom's done some interesting stuff with it. She like makes a reference and then makes matching ones. So she teaches one class off of a reference that she does. And then she gives the ones that were like it, similar, but maybe a different design to her community to paint so they can have like matching art. Right. So they can do the one lesson, learn the techniques, learn how it's done, get it down, and then use the other like three or four as like references so they can have the collection. Because at that stage, and I totally get it, they're learning how to paint.
Hmm.
So the valuable thing for them there is the act of doing the painting,
Hmm.
and the designs are the fuel that gets them to do the painting. So I was like, that's and she's been selling and she makes references for people and sells them from that.
The I heard a rumor, but I've heard it from many places, so I don't know if it's true or not. But is it true that you cannot copyright AI generated art?
Yes and no. So the image that the AI generates, you can't copyright. But say you're a digital painter and you overpainted that whole thing yourself. Now a human being has made it, and that can be copywritten. So yeah, I talked with my attorney and everything about all of that. Just kind of curious to see where that was going to shake out. Just and then one of those kind of conversational things. So not per hour advice, but like at least experiential expert advice kind of a thing. And that is the takeaway, which is that um, that which is synthetic cannot be copywritten. But say somebody, and there's a bunch of, I've seen artists and musicians stuff. If you come in and you do your own work with it, everything that you do in relationship to it is copyrightable. So it's going to be, not that copyright law has ever been clear,
Right.
or on the artist side ever, ever. But that does seem to be what the loose language is going to allow for. So,
I
and then I
wondered
have to wonder,
where.
like, in this kind of new world, like we were talking about, stuff being stolen the way that it's stolen by Temu or Amazon or everything. I have come to question the value of a copyright since it's so difficult to defend anyways. And, like even when I register mine, but that doesn't necessarily guarantee me getting any kind of monetary compensation for any artwork that's stolen. And to
Register
get that
everything?
monetary compensation, I have to hire a very expensive attorney.
Yeah.
Those attorneys are never cheap, and to go out and get it. So it has to be worth, hundreds, potentially thousands of dollars for me to pursue, a lawsuit case against a small company that's doing print on demand shower curtains. It's made me question copyright as a concept, the way that we allow imagery to be distributed, the distribution of images and the distribution of information. I don't know that I found it to be that protective of an umbrella. And now I'm not Disney. I could see where Disney has strong feelings about copyright still and is of value for them still. Because they're, they have the ability, they have the attorneys in house. They can just run down anybody that they feel like, anytime they feel like it, they can just run them down. But I think for the rest of us, it's not so easy. So I don't know if it's not a little bit of tilting at windmills.
Yeah, I don't know because there's so much gray area, and just like fan art wouldn't be able to be copyrighted because it's a derivative image. And if you were using AI as a reference, it's like, well, that would be a derivative image of something that can't be copyrighted. So could you copyright it? Even though if I thought up the idea of a painting and then typed it into an AI software and say, make me a reference photo of, I don't know, a puppy in a sun hat with a basket of flowers or something like that, painting from that would be the derivative image of
Yeah,
that
but it has no inherent
picture.
copyright, so only you're the only
Oh, that's
human
true.
involved. So you could probably, if you
Oh,
felt
yeah.
like sending your artwork into the copyright office, if you felt like doing that, you probably could. You could probably do that and I think the other thing is like, I think these are going to get used as references or resources. I think that's inevitable. I think that's absolutely going to happen. I think the one that got me where I was like, ooh, that's scary was, there was a live streamer. This was in the early day, when the images had just gotten good, but it still had trouble with fingers, right? Like when it still couldn't do hands. And all the artists were like, it's okay.
Can do
It
hands?
can't do hands. And I'm like, oh, it does hands now, just fine.
It does hands now? Okay, I don't know. I'm not up on the
Yeah, no,
lingo, up on the latest trend.
anything it couldn't do before, every week it's like better at what it does. It gets better and better and better. But this was a minute ago, and this guy was in the middle of a stream drawing something live. Somebody grabbed a screenshot, took it over to Dolly, and had it finish what he was working on, went and
Whoa.
published it, and then tried to do a takedown on him.
What? Oh my gosh.
And I was
Wow.
like, now there you go. That's a problem.
Wow. To the minute, up to the minute. I've never registered a copyright on anything just because when you create something, you intrinsically have the copyright
Mm-hmm.
on the artwork. So do you copyright everything you own? Like everything you make? Register
I
it, I mean?
well, we have the intrinsic copyright. I worry more about my books on copyright. Like I register
Ah,
my
yep.
copyright with my books, and I do some batch copywriting. But again, the thing is like, I'm not going to sue some little artist on Etsy, right? Like I'm never going to do that. So even if they're doing the lessons and pretending to be the original creator and all that, I'm not going to go after them because that's not what I want to do with my life. And it wouldn't be of value. So the places where, and as we mentioned earlier, there's no way to recover anything financially from Amazon or Temu.
Mm-hmm.
So short of something of mine being picked up by a large company and used graphically and distributed wildly where I could actually get monetary damages, I don't really know where the benefit for the artist is. You know, I've dealt with copyright for a long, long, long time, and have long felt like this. Like, I get why we have it, and I get that it's there, but if you can't really get damages most of the time past the intrinsic copyright that you get, that your lawyer can still defend, you're just not going to get monetary damages. You know, your lawyer can still defend your copyright just based off your copyright. Not that they won't try to get monetary damages. They do always try to get monetary damages. But if it's not registered with the Copyright Office, you really can't.
Really interesting.
Yeah. That's where the money
you had books.
comes in.
I didn't realize you had books, Cinnamon.
Yeah.
Are they art tutorial books?
Yeah, I have like 3.
Oh wow. I've been under a rock apparently. Oh my goodness, that's awesome.
No, it's just the algorithm doesn't serve everything out. That's all that happens. Like, if you saw the post go by, you would have liked it.
You know what? I'm going to make sure I link to them in the show notes to make sure other people see them too. That's awesome. Are they like physical books or ebooks?
They're physical books. They're for the Acrylic April Challenge that I mentioned, the 30-day painting challenge. So I wrote books that match the challenges. So if you're doing the 30 days, you could have the book to help get you through it. Yeah.
Now, why did the algorithm show me that? Because I would have loved to see that. That's so cool.
Yeah. No, it never shows you anything you really want to see.
Oh, well, we'll put that in the show notes. Do you have any new projects coming up that you want to tell people about?
I always have a lot of I've got Acrylic August coming up. So if anybody wants to do, I think nothing makes people better at painting than painting every day. As you well know, painting every day helps you just grow as an artist more than anything else. So that's going to be August 1st. I'll start that. It's free to join and anyone can come by and join that. I have a very nice art store if people want to check that out on my website. Yeah. I very much like my art store, working on the user interface, but I've got cool stuff and some cool prices on some cool things. So that's really good. And I've got another art retreat coming up in October. Cool. So because I do the art retreats too. I really love doing art retreats.
Nice. Where's this one going to be?
This one is going to be here in Ann Arbor.
Nice.
So we're going to do it in October in Ann Arbor when there's fall. We're doing a spring one. That one's sold out. And we're going to do the fall one coming up. It's kind of a deep dive. Like, it's people leave it going, my whole mission with this is to feed everyone like they're a hobbit. So everybody eats like they're a hobbit. And so there's just endless cookies and cocoa and all the foodies and snackies. And I eat with them. I paint with them. We paint for like 6 hours a day.
Nice.
And so by the time that they're done in their week, they have done more artwork than they have ever wanted to do. And they have made best friends with people that they didn't know they were best friends with yet. And they have been well fed and well cared for. It's like a complete experience. So I really like that. I was curious about your art retreat in France. I wanted to ask you about that, how that went.
It went great. I was a little nervous about the traveling. I'm like, make sure all the flights are all lined up and we get there in time. And the traveling was very smooth. We UpTrek planned ours, so that was really handy because I didn't have to do any of the logistics. But yeah, it was a beautiful location in the south of France, very countryside, very rolling hills. Just look out your window, everywhere you look is like a picture postcard. And it was great. It was I barely had a voice by the end. I had a voice, but I was really pushing it, and I had a very sore throat coming home, but it went well. People made best friends, like you said. So I didn't have to worry about the food or anything, because that was all handled at the venue. And yeah, we ate like hobbits. I thought it was maybe a French thing, but maybe it's an art retreat thing, because it's like you have breakfast and they bring out snacks at 11, then you have lunch at 1, then they bring out snacks at like 4, and then there's cocktails and there's dinner, and there's like, you're eating dinner from 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. and it's painting and eating all week.
Yeah, that's the best. It's painting and eating all week. It's just the perfect life. You can't beat that for anything. I love that.
Where do you host yours? Is there like a hotel or resort or right at your home? Or
They we host them at a hotel that's close by, and we have
Yep.
like big ballrooms and everything. So we do that in there, and then we do little away missions
Mm-hmm.
because we're not plein air painting. If we were doing it in France, we'd be plein air painting, but we're painting
Mm-hmm.
inside. And we have experts come in. I have like a little materials expert come in and like teach people about the art materials, and then we've got a Zentangle master come in and teach everyone about the art of Zentangling for de-stressing. And it's just a little local one, but Ann Arbor has this great art scene, so we can bus people to this amazing art scene so they can also have some like outdoor experience as well.
Nice. How many people do you have in your retreats?
I try to keep them at about 20.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah, try to keep it about 20. I've done them a little bigger if I have a second teacher. Like
Mm-hmm.
if it's co-hosting, and it's not all just me,
Mm-hmm.
then we'll take it up to 40 because we can divide the class into two groups of 20 and then swap.
Mm-hmm.
But when it's just me, I try to keep it to 20 because I want everyone to feel like they saw me, they painted with me, they had their
Mm-hmm.
questions answered, and they got everything they needed out of it. So I kind of keep it small.
Yeah. Do you do a demonstration, everybody paints the same thing, or are people working on their own personal projects, or a little mix of
Uh,
both?
we do it. I do a painting demonstration and they paint with me, but if they are advanced and they don't want to, they can work on their own projects. So most of the people coming are definitely coming to paint with me and learn how to do a painting with me. And we do
Mm-hmm.
acrylic and watercolor and just like little water-based painting. Um, and so they can follow along. But I've had people come where they just love the retreat, but they're doing their own thing. But we give so many
Mm-hmm.
art supplies. They get so many. Their gift bag is like a Hollywood gift bags. They get so many art supplies and so many brushes and so many tools and so much stuff
Oh,
that they don't
nice.
have to bring any art materials in. That's just there for them, and then they get to keep everything that they have. So it lets the people who want to sort of do their own thing very easily do their own thing. And we have a couple people that do their own thing.
Oh, that's awesome. So they don't have to worry about what they're flying with if they're flying in, and that's great. Oh, cool. Well, we will link to all of that in the show notes so people can find you and buy your books and do your acrylic August and attend your retreats and watch your YouTube videos because there are thousands of them. And it's been so fun to catch up with you, Cinnamon. I'm so glad this could happen
I'm so glad.
and that you were open to it. And thank you for your honest sharing so honestly about everything that you've gone through this year. It's I think refreshing to hear that online, and it's I think you sharing so openly takes away some of the stigma that people may be feeling if they're feeling a little overwhelmed or and they don't know where to turn. Because I think sometimes when you're in it, you don't know you're in it,
Mm-hmm.
and you don't know what to do. You don't know where to go or even who to reach out to for help. So.
Yeah. Yeah. And we don't all have access to the same level of help. Like I'm in an area where I have access to tremendous help, but
Mhm.
that's not universal healthcare around the world. So that's the other
Yeah,
thing is if you're lucky enough to have resources, when you need them, that's another struggle I think people have.
absolutely. Well, thank you for spending 2 hours with us this afternoon. If you are listening to this podcast on your favorite podcast player and would like to see our bright, shining faces, you can watch the video version on YouTube. There's going to be links to everywhere you can find Cinnamon in the show notes and video descriptions. So if you're curious about anything we talked about today, I'll have to get a link from you from the TV video that you told me, the imaginary TV show video, because I want to see that. We'll have all of that in the video description. And if you know of anybody that would enjoy hearing this conversation, or maybe someone that could use to hear this conversation, please share it with them and they can be part of the community too. Thank you so much for watching. And as always, till next time, happy crafting. Bye.